Basic Education Minister Siviwe Gwarube has revealed that 548 cases of bullying have been reported in South African schools since the start of the academic year in January. Joining us to discuss these worrying figures is education activist Hendrick Makaneta and trustee for 1000 Women Trust Thiart. The minister was also meant to be part of this discussion, but she did communicate that she can no longer make it. It remains a conversation worth discussing, though, given its seriousness, albeit without a representative from the department. But to the both of you, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Hendrick, let's start with your reaction firstly to just the number of reported cases, 548 in just over a month. What do you make of this?
Well, this number is a cause for concern. It's a big number, given that, the year has just begun. And of course, there is no doubt that teachers are faced with this challenge of having to step in from time to time in the school community where bullying tendencies are experienced from time to time. And I think that government must really find a way to come up with a strategy to ensure that bullying is dealt with thoroughly so that these numbers can be reduced. We know that, in the absence of parents at school level, teachers automatically become parents, and they have that duty to make sure that they look after the general well-being of all our learners.
You say government must find a way to deal with bullying. We'll come back to just that statement. What exactly should be the intervention now? But Tina, just to rope you in, a large number of those cases have been reported in Limpopo, 305 cases to be exact. Your take on this level of bullying and the province where the greatest number of incidents have been reported?
First of all, I would like to say that the numbers are quite low. According to research, what we have done, and the child welfare, 52% of children experience bullying in schools. And we know there's a huge increase in the use of technology to bully one another, and that is conducted by girls and boys in schools. We've also noticed from our research that there is a huge increase on physical bullying in schools, the knifing of young people. So we are working with a huge number of schools, the teachers and the parents, and police safety forums. And what we have found just in the last 2-3 months is that schools do not have anti-bully policies. They do not make it a non-negotiable issue. And then also, a lot of schools, specifically schools Limpopo, Northern Cape, and Mpumalanga, we have found that they are not aware of constructive restoration ways of dealing with bullying. They actually deal with bullies by bullying. So we really, as an organization, we have launched quite a number of training programs all over the country. It's very accessible. It's on WhatsApp technology. And we really believe schools should step up. But in that same stage, I don't want to just put emphasis on the schools, because it's actually a community issue. And we believe that parents should get involved. And not just the parents, but also community safety forums. They should get involved, because we are supposed to deal with this holistically and not just on the front of schools.
Hendrick, you've just heard there, that's Tina's characterization or diagnosis of the problem. Firstly, starting with their research, saying 52% of children in schools are actually bullied. But beyond that, Tina is saying that here we have a situation where in some schools there are no anti-bullying policies, or there's no restorative type of disciplining that actually is instituted in these schools or implemented in these schools. Just your views around that, because there's also just the conversation around the term bullying itself, that it's a bit euphemistic. It sounds light, like perhaps it's when you just push a child in the line, or you tie his shoes together when he's sleeping in class and then he'll trip when he wakes up. But the kind of cases of bullying that we're reporting on actually should not have been called bullying. It's violence, where we've been reporting 3 weeks ago that in Delft, a young boy had his face shoved inside a toilet. I mean, that has traumatized him for life.
Yes.
Definitely. There is a bigger issue. Whereas we must applaud government for developing the anti-bullying policy in 2015, which should be cascaded into schools, we must say that the issue of implementation becomes a problem. Learners learn all of these things in communities. So there is a need really for government to partner with communities to ensure that such matters are addressed. But of course, it is becoming very clear that if learners cannot manage their emotions effectively, then we'll continue to sit with problems of this nature. And this talks to also issues of mental health, because not every child comes from a stable environment. Some of these children learn these very bullying tendencies in their very homes where they come from. And that is why teachers alone will not be able to root out this type of tendencies, because they are not trained to deal with such matters. This is where we are calling on government to ensure that they beef up schools with professionals such as the educational psychologists, as well as social workers, who can be able to tap into this underlying challenges which learners go through mentally. Because if we address mental health issues, discipline alone will not be able to reduce this kind of tendencies. We'll continue to see them creeping up from time to time.
But it brings an element of resources here, because you touch on educational psychologists. Even if you speak of occupational therapists, they don't come cheap. Private schools in most instances could have these facilities or some of these professionals in-house, but the parents would nevertheless have to pay. Either it's incorporated in school fees or you're paying an additional fee. But what happens now in public schools where they cannot afford at times simple desks? We know the story of desks that we've been reporting on this whole week now, where you had the private sector having to donate. They're dealing with ordinary stationary issues that most certainly they wouldn't be able to employ on a permanent basis educational psychologists.
Definitely. You're right. In public schools, it's a very difficult environment. I've been to one school where you find that, the social worker or the psychologist only comes once in a week. Other days, they must go to other schools, where they cater for 5 schools, one person. And this actually means if government should look at other alternatives, because you are quite right, the issue of austerity measures have affected the nation, the budget cuts and so on. It is becoming very clear that government alone will not be able to win this war. We need the involvement of the private sector as such. And at the same time, I think that if teachers can be taken through perhaps a crash course on how to deal with this underlying challenges of mental health, which affect our learners on a daily basis. Because one way or the other, teachers have got that duty of care, in terms of the in-loco parentis, to ensure that safety becomes the #1 priority. And of course, they can be taken through, perhaps, in the absence of, educational psychologists, those teachers who are assigned the role, who have been trained a little bit on, the underlying challenges that learners go through, can be able to take the matters further. Because of importance is for us to ensure that we create a safe environment for learning and teaching, where every child can be able to create a future for themselves.
Tina, your closing remarks. If we had to perhaps look at something in the practical sense, could there be a situation where there's some sort of a compact where you've got parents, not parents of just bullies, but parents of all learners coming to some of these schools, where they all take the oath or pledge to actually ensure the well-being of all children in school, that if you know that your child is a bully, you start to talk to them about the dangers and the impact bullying has on other children, because we know that some children take their lives. And the difficulty, even as a parent of a child that's being bullied, even when your child does open up, they can sometimes tell you that, but I don't want you to go to school and confront the bully, because it leads to further bullying, or your child is left humiliated that they couldn't handle their own business. You had to come as a mother. So this thing concerns all of us, the parents of the children being bullied, the parents of children who might be bullies and to no fault of theirs, where it's just the community and society and they actually have a peaceful home.
Yes, you're so right. You know, we have already, last year, 2024, we have provided training to 15,000 parents and teachers. They have visited various schools, and at the moment we are busy. Those are facilitators, anti-bully facilitators, and we're now busy training counselors who work in community-based organizations, that they can go to the schools and perform those tasks, support the teachers, support the children. But I must admit, we have also had, for example, one parent who went to 5 schools and they refused to work with her. So we had to intervene. So it's not easy to break those barriers between parents, the teachers, the schools, and the community-based organizations. We have trained 15,000 trauma experts. They're all in the communities. And our training is online on WhatsApp technology. It's free, it's accessible. People can contact 1000 Women Trust and they can sign on. I must just add 2 things. First of all, a number of those teachers are also being bullied at school. By children, by parents, and by principals. We have also found that the principals actually do not respond to the parents' reports of bullying because they feel if they ignore it, it will go away. But we know it just gets worse. And then, really, there are more than 7,000 unemployed social workers in South Africa. Schools should reach out and engage with them to become volunteers. If we wait for the government to solve this problem, we will have more children dying in our communities. And just my last words, I have to also talk about the bully. We have discovered in the schools that 70% of the bullies are being bullied at home or in the community. And they just replay that. Children by the age of 7 learn how to abuse.
So the old adage rings true in this instance that hurt people hurt people. To the both of you, thank you very much for joining us for this all-important conversation. That's education activist Hendrick Makaneta and trustee for 1000 Women Trust, Thiart, speaking to us on those very worrying figures. 548 cases of bullying already reported in just 2 months, actually little less under 2 months.